Our unresolved fears, biases, and wounds can show up in relationships and create harm. Shadow work helps us identify these patterns and transform them. As an example, someone with a fear of abandonment may unconsciously sabotage relationships by pushing others away. Let me tell you. So, and here's my being vulnerable and my accountability all at the same time. So here's my step 2 inside of my step 1. I totally believe in sharing stories, right? So currently, if you've been following me, you guys know my whole damn life story because I do that on Facebook. But my now estranged husband and we're separated, and this is the final go round. Uh, but we have what I call hood love, right? It's the breakup to make up. I'm a runner. He's a runner. He runs physically. I run emotionally. I had no idea. Of course, I'm not. Look at me. I'm wonderful and amazing, and he just keeps leaving. Truth of the matter is that when I finally sat with my shadow work, and I mean big time, right? I sat there, I'm talking about mirror, candles, water, old shit from childhood, like literally like the keys to my grandma's apartment, like this kind of stuff, just like representing like where is this coming from, right? I was just sick and tired of perpetuating the cycle of us breaking and coming back together. And I sat with it and I had a huge abandonment issues, right? Like things that sometimes happen just because of natural causes, right? My dad died when I was young. That still can bring up abandonment. My mom was like, I became a really bad child. I mean, awful, like no bullshit about it, right? Like therapy was not helping me. I was actively causing harm. And my mom was pregnant with my sister at the time, so she just like hit her brink and she was like, here you go. And I got a pins petition on me, which is a person in need of supervision, which says I cannot be legally responsible for this child after a certain time of the day, 8, whatever she's doing, that's on y'all because I can't do it, right? I have another kid to worry about. So it was a matter of like now looking back at it, was a matter of protecting her own self legally and my sister, who we all could have just been taken away and she would have just looked like a neglectful parent. And that's not always the case. That being said, I wound up in BCW, Bureau of Child Welfare, is in New York, DFACS here in Georgia, custody. And it just, once you're in the system, you're in the system, right? So that fear, like, it brought me to that very moment, like where my mom had brought me to, like, here you go, can't do it. And that abandonment carried with me from 12 years old, and I was perpetuating that in my own relationships, in all of them, because my expectation was people leave. People leave, they always leave, and before they leave, I'm going to do what I can to push them away. Like, I'm going to make sure that if you leave, there's a reason. So I was a lunatic, honestly, in my own ways, right? But not dealing with it, right? Saying, showing up in all of these other sort of ways. I was very emotionally unavailable. I'm still working on that. And that showed up even in my parenting, right? It's shared with you guys that my eldest child doesn't speak with me. All of those things showed up. That's the shadow work, right? Because how can you be in community? How can you be in these intimate relationships, intimate spaces when you are not dealing with your own wounds? Or you haven't even acknowledged them, or you are, you can't consistently stay a victim either. Yes, so those things were awful, but where do I step in and say, okay, I'm going to take ownership of that. I'm going to own that this is my action, right? Like, so though I have no control over the harm that happened to me, I fully have control over the healing that I get to do for myself, which will impact the others. Remember how I say inner work, outer world. So there goes my share and my accountability. I was a raving lunatic, which 100% caused the back and forth, right? And he's good for running physically. Like, I'm out, right? You could only stay but for so long. Same thing, I'm sure, in other aspects of my life, right? I'm sure that impacted. I really never did a 9 to 5 kind of job, partly because of my ADHD and, issues with authority. So that's never, but I could see how that would show up even in a workspace environment, right? Not feeling good enough or being consistently scared that I'm going to lose my job, which would cause me to overwork or people please. All of these things, they manifest in different ways. But your job is to get into those shadows and see where that is impacting you and how that is impacting everyone else around you. So I gave a reflection as well, because sometimes I like to give you guys that.